Hi, everyone, and welcome to Lithuania Goes AI, a series of virtual events about the Lithuanian AI ecosystem and the current innovations in AI. And today we already have the fifth event out of five, and today's topic is education. So Lithuania Goes AI education. What are the possibilities and the potential of AI in education and related industries? What does the Lithuanian AI ecosystem look like? We are inviting businesses and startups from all over the world to learn about it from the insider's perspective, because today Lithuanian startups will introduce the current AI innovations in Lithuania. As always, if you've been to this event before, the goal of this event is just to simply gather and show what we got, and get acquainted with those who are interested in the ecosystem and want to know the vibe of it. As always, to begin with, let's know that you're alive and you're listening. So if you could give me a hands up, a head up in the chat, just write where are you from, or what institution you're from, or what kind of topic you're interested into, or just write your name and say hi. That would be nice, because the chat is where we are communicating, where you can ask all the questions for the speakers. My name is Lukas Karaitis. I am a science and technology communicator. I host TV and radio shows about science and technology. So I'm kind of a middle person between the scientists, the innovators, and the public. And yes, so if you've been to the other events, you saw me, you know a few things about me. So don't be shy to ask anything you like in the chat. Let me know that you're alive. And today it's a little bit different than always. We used to have two, three, or four presentations and then a discussion. Now we are going to have two presentations about education, and then two discussions, a short one and a longer one in the end. So yes, that's about it. Kind of a pity that Lithuania Goes AI events are going to an end. Hopefully they will do something more about it, because education, agrotech, science, what was else? Bioscientists, space, defense. Just in this last month, I got to know so much about what do Lithuanian companies do, and I hope you did too. And education is the topic that was often mentioned by other startups who would, in the discussions, mention that we need to educate. The answer to this question is education, education, education. It looks like everyone has his or her own opinion on how we should teach pupils and students in Lithuania. So today is the day to talk about that. Okay, looking at the chat, so Mirella is saying hi. Hello, Mirella, good to see you. I hope someone else will say hi, so that we are not alone, that we see you and know that you're listening, since it's not a live event, it's online, not so easy to feel if someone is out there. Okay, let's get to the main part. Why you came here, I hope. Definitely not to listen to me here talk. We have Jurgita Kapočiūtė-Dzikienė, a professor at Vytautas Magnus University, the Faculty of Informatics, and a language technology specialist at Tilde Information Technology. She is going to tell us, where does AI meet education? I know Jurgita works closely with AI and has quite some to say about the education system. She said it's going to be quite positive, but we'll see. So hi, Jurgita, can you hear me?
Can Jurgita, you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you. So, okay, we are all very interested in what you have to share with us. So we are listening, and we'll come back with the questions.
Thank you very much. So good afternoon, everybody. And let me start my presentation from the big thank to the organizers, because they invited me to speak on behalf of the academic community. And it is actually the huge responsibility. So as Lucas already mentioned, I promise to be as positive as possible. So let me tell you why I feel that I am competent to speak about it. Because in the field of AI, I am from 2005, and I'm actively doing the research. My former research was related with the adaptive agents, and from 2011, I'm absolutely in language technologies. And this is the reason why I will give examples mostly related with this field. And in the education, I'm from 2006 as the lecturer. So as you can see, for being for so long in both of these fields, I feel that I know their strengths and also problems. So let me start where we touch to the AI as people in the education. So sooner or later, we use search engines when searching for the specific research works. We use machine translation. We also use summarization tools. And students are asked and, well, even demanded to use error correction tools for their bachelor, master, PhD thesis. They are also asked to correct the style, but of course, unfortunately, we do not have anything similar to Grammarly for the Lithuanian language. And when already research works are prepared, then the faculty administration checks for plagiarism. And you can see here that we have separate tools, and behind separate tool, we have separate artificial intelligence. So the model, separate models. So here artificial intelligence is very fragmented. But it is actually not very natural, because if we think about humans, when we try to make some decision in the specific topic, we use the knowledge from another topic as well, another domain as well. And there are actually attempts how to aggregate the knowledge about the language and the entire knowledge on the internet, and also cross the barriers between languages. And here, before I will speak about main steps in artificial intelligence, I would like to start from mentioning when neural networks were invented. So they were invented a long time ago, but only recently we test them and use them for any creation of almost any AI-based tool. And here I also want to mention two revolutionary transformer-based models. So BERT model. BERT model is the language model that groups the words according to their similarity. It is based on the idea that the words that we have in the language are not just randomly placed. So this important model was created in 2018. It was created by Google, and it covers 104 languages. By the way, Lithuanian language is of course there. So the cost of such model is $7,000. Another powerful model, generative-based model. And the idea behind it, that when you give some hint, let's say if you give the beginning of the sentence, it is able to generate, to complete it. Or if you give some question, it is able to give the answer. So this powerful model was created in 2020, and behind of it stands OpenAI with the Elon Musk. So it covers all languages that are on the internet, and it is trained from all the knowledge that is on the internet. But the cost of such model is $12 million. And why I mention those costs? So the major research in Lithuania, despite if it is business, despite it is academia, the major research is related with reusing or fine-tuning the existing models, of course, with some additional mechanisms that helps to adjust the model for your specific task. But the major innovations are actually when you have the novel idea and you want to train the powerful model from scratch. And I just gave the examples of Google and OpenAI. So the philosophical question for you, how do you think, how many Lithuanian research institutions and how many companies in Lithuania, or not only in Lithuania, can do that? So, but we still need to train and we still need to educate. As you already understood, the major research is related with reusing, fine-tuning. And the role of AI, how I think, is to transform AI users to AI creators. So to give them wings to fly. And this is the power of education. And in the education, there are two important actors, the student and the teacher. So there are nuances if thinking about each of them. So, you know, students are students and they more and more think that everything can be Googled. And this is when technology becomes an obstacle, I would say. Students also sometimes learn for the grade, not for the knowledge. And their motivation is as the roller coasters. And despite of the knowledge that they must get during education process, they also have to learn punctuality, responsibility, critical thinking, and to prepare for their future career. On the other hand, the teacher, subject knowledge is not enough. Theoretical knowledge is not enough. You must have researcher skills to be prepared to talk about AI and to educate about AI. But even with it, you need something extra. You need pedagogical skills. I would say you need to notice who, when, and how have to be motivated and encouraged. And it is enormous responsibility. So the teacher is mostly responsible for bridging the gaps between him, her, and the student. And sometimes I hear that, you know, it's enough to have the subject knowledge. It's enough to be practitioner and everybody can teach. Yes, I agree that everybody can teach, but it is a long journey learning how to do it right. So there are other important bridges. I don't say they do not exist, but they must be strengthened. So between theory and practice. So theory can offer fundamental research, offer absolutely innovative methods, can dive deep into the methods and their parameters. And also theory is responsible for solving future problems, as you see what happened with the neural networks invented so long time ago. And the theory is more research oriented. On the other hand, practice. Practice is the application of methods and testing them. So it is related with the experimental investigation and with solving practical problems. And of course, the main goal of practice is the accuracy to achieve it as high as possible. So this is the important bridge, but the synergy can be reached only if we have the right amount of theory and practice. Another very important bridge is between academic world and business. So the university, at the university, the science is done. So university can teach and also students learn about novel methods. But for doing the research, they very often universities lack the data. And when they want to do the experiments, they sometimes lack computational resources. But the university educates students how to make the correct result analysis and how to offer further solutions. And also here we do the research and students write their thesis. On the other hand, business can help to define practical problems, and they often has the data. They have the data, and sometimes even don't know what to do with it. And business also sometimes have enough computational resources, and they, in collaboration with universities, could create tools, very innovative tools, and satisfy the users. And also, that is very, very important, they can, via collaboration, grow their future employees. So if thinking about the future, we know very well where we are right now, but let's think how to move forward. So one important direction is thinking who is going to teach the next generations. So if we want the level in Lithuania as is in the Western, Northern Europe, it means that we need to set the scientific requirements for researchers as in Western, Northern Europe. Because right now Lithuania is not visible at the conferences. And if you do not participate at the conferences, you do not have the possibility to make some important relationships and also do projects in the future. Again, competitive salaries. The salaries must be competitive to keep and to attract people to this important academic world. And probably the most important thing I would say is the right attitude towards the academic people. Another direction. If we already think about who is going to teach, so we also need to think, so who is going to come? So artificial intelligence must be popularized at school. But here I'm not talking about millions of homeworks. No pressure. Only positive motivation and encouragement. And I say it as the mom of 2 children. What else? Lithuanian universities have to compete for students with foreign institutions. But they also have to compete for teachers, specialists, and professionals with foreign institutions. We still need stronger collaboration between national and academic institutions. I would say, let's be friends, not fight. And we need stronger collaboration with foreign academic institutions as well, and stronger collaboration with business. And last but not least, you may have the most innovative idea where the sky is the limit, but without sufficient computational resources, you will not be able to implement it. So I just go to the conclusions, and I would want to say that the future of artificial intelligence completely depends on human intelligence. And I very much like this McCallum X thought that education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. So let's think today that we could have better tomorrow. So thank you very much. Looking for your questions if you have.
Yes, thank you very much, Jurgita. Thank you for your insights from the academic side. Super interesting to learn some of the things. Of course, I will have a few questions. For anyone else who has any questions, please write them down in the chat. For sure, I will ask those. Okay, so Jurgita, you said you're going to be positive. I don't know if it was that positive, but that's a good thing. Let's talk about problems if there are.
I did my best.
So if you would try to be pessimistic, I think we would hear even some more stronger language about what we shouldn't do in Lithuania.
Probably we would hear about some very specific cases,
Okay.
you know.
Okay, and for me, it was interesting to hear that you said that we should set the scientific requirements for researchers. So, are there no requirements at the moment?
No, there are. Right now, we have the requirements, but they're completely different from the requirements as they have in the Western world, in northern countries. All post-Sovietic countries, I would say, have very similar requirements. So Lithuania as well. So mostly journal papers counts, not the conference papers, but as you all understand that in computer science, you must be quick if you want to present something. So submitting to the journal, you usually have to wait for a very long time till you get the answer, if it is accepted or not. At the conferences, everything goes much faster. And there you also can meet other researchers from other countries. Right now, the situation is that very important conferences all over the world are not important in Lithuania, so they do not get funding. For your own money, you just cannot go on yourself to that conference, at least very often. So if this situation could change, it would be better in the longer perspective in the way that there will be more collaboration between different Lithuanian and foreign institutions. So then we could think about more powerful projects, international projects.
And you also pointed out that in Lithuania, most of the startups, most of the businesses, what they do, they actually are editing the existing AI models, but no one is really creating new ones. But as you also mentioned, it's really hard to create a new one. So do you think it should be a goal for Lithuania to foster the creation of new models, not only to be the editors of existing ones? Was that the idea?
Yeah, I mean, at some, it is not absolutely true that we are not creating anything, but just the level. We do it with the available resources and the available data that we have here. Of course, if we would have more powerful resources, we could do even more advanced, even more progress. We could do even more larger progress in this field with more resources, because sometimes the limitation is only computational resources, especially when you deal with a lot of data and language technologies. I do not say that we do not create, but of course they are not at the same level as, you know, Google or OpenAI.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much, Jurgita. Thank you for your presentation. It's going to be interesting to talk with you later in the discussion. So Jurgita just presented us her more academic side about education and AI. And now we are going to get a little bit deeper into one of the examples of how AI is being used in education in Lithuania, since we are going to hear Renata Špukienė, Tilde IT Managing Director, and Tilde has been enabling different languages in the digital age for more than 20 years. And Renata will present the latest cutting-edge AI-driven language technologies like intelligent virtual assistants, speech technologies, and custom machine translation systems, and the possibilities to implement them into everyday businesses for different users. So I think we are going to hear about AI-powered chatbots, machine translation, and localization. That's my guess. I know that Tilde is a very interesting company and does some amazing things. So AI-driven language technologies and Renata Špukienė. Renata, hi.
Hi,
I can see
hello.
you. Hi. Good to have you here. So we are very much interested in what you have to show us.
It's really nice to be here with you and tell what we are doing. And actually, we do not work a lot in education field, but actually, personally, I see a lot of a niche for language technologies in educational sector. So today I will touch not everything, but something, and for you to have different thoughts, maybe ideas, and maybe for further cooperation. So, I represent language technology company in Lithuania. It's Tilde, as you already mentioned, and Tilde is one of few companies actually in Lithuania that work in language technology field. And to be able to work in this field and compete with universities and achieve any significant result working in, with AI, we also need scientists. So by now we have we have 11 scientists in our research team in 3 Baltic countries, and we actually, Tilde was founded 30 years ago, not 20 years ago. So this year is the first year of us being a language technology company, and we work with different universities, we work with different companies across Europe and across the world, and altogether we have 150 employees in Tilde in 3 Baltic countries, and our clients and partners are well-known companies like Microsoft, SAP, IBM, also governmental institutions and European Commission as well. And as you mentioned, we develop solutions not only for business, but also for public use and for also at some point for some specific sectors. Artificial intelligence, actually, we hear the concept of artificial intelligence in almost every conference and blog post recently. But just as often, we also argue about whether artificial intelligence really resides in a particular solution. Sometimes we have doubt if it's just automation or if it's AI in reality. And here are 2 definitions that I find quite simple and at the same time quite precise. Artificial intelligence can perform tasks that until now only human intelligence was able to perform, like speech recognition, decision-making, visual perception, and also translation. People learn from experience by seeing, touching, smelling, hearing, learning patterns, etc. And this is how artificial intelligence also learns by using various machine learning technologies, such as if we can smell, there is artificial smell. If we can see, we have computer vision. If we can hear sounds, there is a speech recognition tool. And if we want to communicate, there is a speech synthesis and many other technologies that allow artificial intelligence act at some point as human beings. These are the machine learning technologies that we use in Tilde, starting from neural network, deep learning, and all other technologies. And all the Tilde developed language technologies are based on artificial intelligence. As you see, it's machine translation, speech recognition, speech synthesis, and others. In 30 years, Tilde gained competencies in several language technology fields, like we provide a range of language technology products and services that showcase the latest in digital innovation. So these language technologies like custom machine translation, automated speech recognition, synthesis, or bots, they can serve client needs, and they can serve either independently or together and result in smart technologies like intelligent virtual assistants that that can not only understand what you're writing or typing in the chat window, but also what you hear, and they can even say or read the answer to your question aloud, or even to translate into other language if it's needed. To make these technologies work for us, as community, we also have to change. Community means either it's a business company or individual user or institution or university or students, whatever. We also have to change or adapt. It means that we have to step into that new digital transformation era. And this, because it's a new reality for us, changes are to be made not only to infrastructure, like having cloud solutions or resources. Users or customers also have to be engaged by technologies, and companies have to empower their employees of future employees and optimize their processes. And of course, the service that is provided should also transform accordingly. So the question why we should transform, because the role of humans in the future, of future jobs will depend on AI development, on artificial intelligence development. More and more functions will be passed to artificial intelligence, and more new roles in the future for the humans will appear, like different roles that we do not have right now. Recently, for example, there was a new translator role presented, like machine translation post editor. It means that all the texts that are translated, they should be reviewed by a translator, which actually do not translate himself or herself, but he reads what is provided by machine translation, edits if needed, and ensures the final quality. So, another future profession, for example, bot trainer. To have a bot working for you perfectly, there is always a human behind the bot, which teaches or trains the bot to act in the way that users expect. The usual question nowadays is how AI-driven language technologies can help business or individuals or different organizations or a particular sector, for example, educational sector. So let's start with the benefits of neural machine translation. The most common comments about machine translation, and you already heard them a lot, if machine translation will replace human translators in the future, will human translators be needed in the future? And similar questions. So it is the most important thing for us right now to understand, first of all, that artificial intelligence, all technologies, including neural machine translation, are not designed to replace the man. They are here to help the man to act in a more efficient way, to do more work in the same amount of time. So why it's so important, for example, if we speak about machine translation. Some facts. We live in a multilingual digital world. We speak more than 7,000 languages in the world. But only 12 languages are used for 98% of internet sites. So what if you do not understand any of these languages, any of these 12 languages? Let's get back to European Union. There are 24 official languages in European Union, 80 languages that citizens speak. And the governmental institutions should coordinate all the documentation within the country and with European Commission. The amounts of information are growing rapidly. It should, and this information should be translated and passed to citizens, or passed on to citizens very quickly. And if we do not want to that our economy is halted, so we have to take specific measures, specific actions. Some of you may think that this slide shows that translation market growth is growing by 90% each year. So you can imagine what what translation amounts should be, or documents should be translated each day and each year. So some of you may think that there is no need to translate. Why do not use just English? But recent studies show that English is not an answer. According to Eurobarometer, 62% of Europeans don't speak English well enough to hold a conversation, even let alone buy online. 65% of citizens prefer content in their own language, even if it is in poor quality. 66% already use machine translation to understand what is written in different websites. And even millennials, young generation who are more comfortable with English in general, show a strong preference for information in their own language. So this is where machine translation can help everyone. So machine translation is designed to meet many requirements. This is a quick and cheap access to information in foreign language, what speeds up the information exchange between countries, governmental institutions, individuals, and so on. Understanding on information received in foreign languages that otherwise could not be used would require substantial time and cost to translate. It's possible to make all the websites multilingual for anyone's use, for public use, for individuals' use. It's easier to reach international audiences by providing instant access to multilingual information, and in that case, educate the people what's going on in different countries, to access information in whatever language it is. And of course, one of the most important things is to provide real-time translation of text documents, internal or external communication. And if in case you need a really precise translation, you can post-edit, as I already mentioned. Just take machine translated document and edit it. It will be much quicker than just to have a human translation. And it doesn't cost you anything. Just it's an easy way to have as much information in your language as possible. Of course, I do not speak about fiction translation. MP is simply artificial intelligence, and of course, it imitates human thinking, but it doesn't create its own vision. That's why machine translation cannot translate books. There is one more thing for you for students, for example, for lecturers, for any individual to use machine translation in their emails. So you can just add plugin into your Outlook and translate the emails you receive, or have your response translated while you are writing them. For free, you can use Vilnius University website, vertimas.vu.lt, which is developed by Tilde together with Vilnius University and meant for public use, for individual use, for students, for lecturers, for governmental institutions. You can do whatever you want. You can put your thesis, you can put your presentation and get the whole presentation translated immediately. You can translate websites, you can use for any document translation that you need, and just copy the text and put whenever you want or wherever you need it to put. Another language technology that we developed is smart virtual assistant, conversational chatbots or intelligent chatbots, whatever you call it, it's the same thing. This is a technology that actually integrates artificial intelligence, natural language processing, natural language understanding, and unique speech and machine learning technologies, and also animated 3D virtual personas. Despite the fact that chatbots are quite rarely used in Lithuania, quite new in our market. We can already talk about chatbot evolution, starting from simple guided dialogues or so-called question and answer dialogues, through newer bots that can mimic the dialogue, to a cutting-edge bot technology that understands context and gives responses based on previous information in the conversation. They also can hear what you're saying and respond to your language. They can have their own personalities as well. Even if chatbots are seldom used in Lithuania, now the prognosis shows that the chatbot market is growing very rapidly in the world, and it is projected to 35% of growth each year. So you can imagine that bots in Lithuania also are a near future. I hope so. I really trust that it is our near future. So sooner or later, chatbot speaking Lithuanian will be our daily routine, and it would be better sooner, of course. So how chatbots can help us? Let's have a look at some statistics. During pandemic, governmental institutions and business understood that it's quite crucial to ensure their services accessible online. And since then, services provided online are growing also. So to meet the client expectations and make services work for them means that many changes for the business, for the state, and for the user. So customer frustration in traditional online experience, as statistics show. So what is your experience? I'm sure that you faced at least one of these situations. And this research is based on the results in 195 countries. So usually the customers do not like searching online due to several reasons. Sites are hard to navigate. They can get answers to simple questions. Basic details about business are hard to find, or even it's not convenient to use websites. So moreover, 34% of people do not want to wait. They need quick answers. Time is money. So they need quick answers to their questions and quick solutions. 61% of users prefer writing messages instead of talking on phone. So this is where artificial intelligence chatbots can help, because they are available 24 hours per day, 7 days a week. And chatbots are designed to take over the most frequent or repetitive requests from customers, and they let the real agents to work with more complex questions, more complex requests where real human input is needed. So actually, users find that it's quite easy to communicate with bots, and their experience is quite positive. And speaking about business, so it's calculated that bots cover 80% of usual questions, standard questions. And this, for business, it means cost reduction by 30%. One of myths about chatbots, when people start using chatbots, is that they are very simple. Users do not understand where that bot's brain lies, where that AI, where it is. They just answer the questions. But in fact, in a chatbot, there is so little graphical user interface that the typical graphic-oriented designer mindset is somewhat misplaced. Even if it looks simple outside, you just type your question in a special window. it doesn't mean that it is simple inside. So all the artificial intelligence technologies lie deep inside and do their work for you in a way you do not even notice it. So bots can help you in various businesses and citizens, and these are the example of bots that Tilde already developed. And we have a virtual assistant, Laura. You can find it on YouTube. You can chat with her. She can answer you in a simple way. Lithuanian tax inspection bot Simas is also ready to serve to you if you have any questions regarding tax. National Library of Latvia has a simple question and answer bot to find the book, to find the working hours, or to search for specific information. And one educational bot is learning bot Theo, which is I'm sorry, something is wrong. For educational sector, the bot which teaches children to speak Lithuanian, Latvian children to speak Lithuanian, or Lithuanian children to speak Latvian. So this is the example for educational sector that language technologies can be used in educational sector for specific reasons. And there are more and more initiatives recently to bring bots to schools and universities for learning and teaching purposes, especially for students with disabilities or special needs. And due to COVID situation, there are new ideas of bots that could be a great help to teachers who have to use in their lessons hybrid teaching methods. So this is one of the practical could be one of the practical implementations of bots in educational sector. Another language technology field where Tilde works is speech technologies. What are the speech technologies? So one of them is speech recognition, and another is voice synthesis. In simple words, speech recognition is when your speech is put into text, and voice synthesis when the text is read aloud. So speech recognition allows to prepare for transcripts, speeds up document preparation, automates customer support. And voice synthesis converts text to audible format, and it helps to automate communication with customers. Where artificial intelligence lies. In natural language processing algorithms allow artificial intelligence to understand the spoken language as well as written language. So various algorithms can be used to process the spoken language by different person groups. For example, adult group or children speaking. Children usually speak a bit different than adult person. Or, for example, persons with speech disorder, or if there is a wish, it can be used for people speaking with specific dialect. As one of the examples, there are many English languages in the world. We know English, British English, American English. There is also Indian English, Canadian English, and so on. And each of these languages can have their own speech recognition engine and could be easily understood by artificial intelligence. There are currently more than 4.2 billion smart devices and systems with voice assistants in the world, though in Lithuania they are not very popular and are not used widely. And this number is projected to exceed the world's population by 2024, reaching 8.4 billion devices or users of speech technologies. People are becoming more and more accustomed to those technologies, and in very near future, the voice will become even more common, simple, intuitive form of communication between people and different devices. Speech technologies can be simply used in your daily life, and especially in educational sector. For example, you can have many meetings, and not always you are ready to prepare meeting minutes for further usage or for the persons that didn't participate in the meeting. So you can easily get transcription of meeting, of audio video file of meeting, and put it into meeting minutes. You can use them later for your protocol preparation or for saving into your archives. Lecturers can easily get the transcript of their lectures if it's video lectures. You can dictate any spoken notes, you can dictate emails, you can dictate the job lists if you want. For just a simple example, just when you're driving to job and there is a big traffic jam, just open the speech recognition tool, dictate whatever you want, an email or message or to-do list or your purchase list, whatever. And as soon as you arrive to your job, to your working place, you can have a text of everything that you dictated. So easy, and just use it. You can also have subtitles for your logs or lectures or social media if you use them. Virtual assistants can easily can understand what you say and and give the answer to you in the chat window. You can use voice technologies for smart homes, and of course you can store all your videos or audio files at some archive when you need, especially for journalists, when you need. You can just find easily can find by putting a keyword the information which was said 10 years ago or 5 years ago or yesterday. So easy to use formats. You can have a text in web browser, you can have a text as subtitles, or you can have a simple word form with embedded audio. And while hearing what was said, you can easily edit the text if you need it.
And Renata, maybe we could wrap up,
yes.
sum up. Yeah?
Yes, this is
so
the
we
last
would have
slide.
time for, great.
Yes,
so we would
this
have
is the
time
last.
for questions.
Yes, so speech recognition in Lithuanian language is already available on Tilde Speech AI portal. You can also find a tilde.com portal, or you can just download Tilde's Balsas app and use it while you're driving to your work.
Nice.
That's it.
Yes, thank you very much, Renata. A great presentation and a very interesting, I would say, a case study of what's being done here in Lithuania with Tilde. So for me, it was a mysterious company before. So now I know much more about it. What does it do and what doesn't it do? So great, really. I think we got to know a lot of things now. We have a few questions. Artem is asking in the chat, a really great question. So are there any startups that can do language-oriented tasks in Lithuanian better than the global players? For example, better Lithuanian speech recognition than Google, or syntax and semantic analysis of Lithuanian texts?
I couldn't say that what is already done is done wrong or it's bad. Actually, each startup can always do better, always. There are no limits, as Jurgita mentioned, only the sky above us. So can we do better? Well, it depends. It depends on several factors. First of all, if we have enough resources. Resources is the most important thing for language technologists. So if we have enough resources in Lithuanian language, so it is possible to do better. But of course, there are many other things that also have to be taken into account. for example, do we really, well, let it put in this way. What does it for you? What does it mean for you to do better, to beat some other company, or to meet client expectations and serve the client? Maybe it's enough what it is done for the time being, but you can do always better.
Yes, but Renata, would you say that, let's say, Google's speech recognition in Lithuanian works better than Tilde's, or not?
I wouldn't say that it works better. It works in the same manner and shows the same results. Let's say, usually we usually measure what is the quality of speech recognition. And our speech recognition is performs similar with like other language speech recognition technologies. It means that the barrier when you say that the technology is good is about 80%. It means that 8 of 10 words is recognized correctly. So Tilde recognition tool now performs reaches 82–86% quality. At some points when we measure, for example, news dictators or persons that speak clear and nice Lithuanian language, this percent grows up to 90–95%. So if we can reach 100%, it would, if we could reach 100%, of course, it would be ideally. But having in mind that persons speak differently, have different education, have some speaking problems or disabilities, and not always use the standard language. There are a lot of jargon and other words or shortened words. So to reach 100%, it would be really, really difficult, almost impossible, I'd say.
Yes, thank you. And so would you say you have any competitors that are doing the same thing that you are doing in Lithuanian language? For example, the project called Liepa, which I'm waiting for a long time to be implemented in reality. As I know, it's still being finished. I think they have the second now iteration of Liepa, as I heard. So is it a competitor of yours, and what would you say about it?
I'd say that they are our partners more than competitors. Yes, we work in business sector, we work more with business companies, but Liepa is a university, it's academia, they work in that field for quite a long time. But actually what Liepa did in the first and what they already finished in the second project, Liepa 2, it is being used in our speech recognition tool. We used their database, their corpora, speech corpora for our language tool, speech recognition tool. It means that, of course, we made some changes. We added additional corpora. We used different acoustic models and language models. So it doesn't mean that we just took and use it. But they see them, Liepa and Vilnius University, we see them as partners. And we have a common interest, and we look for further cooperation in different projects.
Great. Anyone who is interested and haven't heard about Liepa, you can maybe Google a little bit more about it. If you put Laimutis Telksnys next to it on Google, you will definitely find more information about the project. And Artem is having another question. So can we use Tilde's technologies in our apps? Do you have an API for your services?
Yes, there are.
Great.
There is a possibility.
Great. Maybe Artem is going to connect with you, and maybe that's a new new business
yes.
communication happening here, hopefully.
Yes.
So the last, Renata, question from me, and to do maybe a short one. I know we are a little bit over time, but we'll catch it up from our last discussion. So, so Tilda is being used all over the world in different kind of applications. Do you know any examples of how it is being used in connection with education? Do you have any examples of how your clients are using it in education?
Actually, at the moment, there are different thoughts about language technology uses in education in Lithuania. As an example, I could say that there is one great example in Latvia when they, for educational sector, they gathered all the literature database, all the needed literature or fiction books in one database, and when needed you can translate it, you can use it, you can use for either lecture or for in school, and there are several bots that teach children to use this site and for different purposes.
Great. Thank you very much, Renata, for your great presentation. I think it was wonderful. We got to know a lot of things about the AI being used in language. So thank you very much. We'll meet in a discussion really soon. So I think it was quite interesting. And Artem, thank you for your questions. If anyone has any, please write them down in the chat. Let's move forward with our discussion. The first out of two, a short one. It's kind of a presentation and a discussion at one. And I would like to say hi to Ginvilė Ramanauskaitė, who is the head of product and business to business at BitDegree, the world's first blockchain-based education platform with token scholarship and talent networking. Hi, Ginvilė.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, good to have you. And yes, I guess Lithuanians, most of them, if we're interested into startups, have heard already of BitDegree something. Also, I'm saying hi to Vitalijus Klincevičius, machine learning engineer at a company, Smalsus Intelektas, a smart intellect in English. The company is creating a virtual assistant, which would be capable of formulating questions out of learning material. That would help the learners to test their knowledge. That's my translation. Is it more or less, Vitalijus?
Yes, definitely, yes.
Great. So the thing is, both of you, Vitalijus and Ginvilė, both of them are, let's say, in their initial stage of using AI in their companies. That's why they are speaking here today. That's why they're interested. They are using AI or planning to use AI. So we have an opportunity to meet the companies and startups that are about to start implementing AI in education and in their products and services. So let's hear a short presentation from each of you about what you do, and let's maybe talk a little bit after that. So Ginvilė, could you tell us a little bit more about BitDegree and what do you do and how do you plan to use AI?
Sure. So I have prepared a couple of slides to visualize a bit what we are doing. And I would say that from the beginning of BitDegree, we haven't had this idea that we will do AI on the platform, but we were always looking for ways to improve online experiences. So BitDegree, for those who don't know, is an online education platform focused on teaching professional digital skills. So here we are talking about adult learners, about reskilling, upskilling, and exactly actually touching and trying to solve maybe for that problem what Renata was mentioning, that there is this digital skills gap. There are more jobs in digital than there are workers right now. And that means that the current workforce needs to upskill and reskill. And at that scale, we believe that technology and online education is the solution. And that's why we strive to build the platform and make online education efficient. By diving deep into learner motivation, by applying latest instructional design practices, making education fun and engaging, linking education to employment, and also, as Lucas mentioned, we do have blockchain element on the platform. So we are about 3.5 years into operations. We have more than 1 million users, a number of courses, quite a significant website traction, like page views every month. And we have actually done a lot already on how to make education experience work. We believe that still there is no one efficient way to teach people online, and if it would be, all the problems would have been solved. The rise of Coursera edX in 2012, promised that revolution, and it didn't happen. And we see a lot of problems in online education, and we try to address those questions. We have worked with Vilnius University researchers to study online education and motivation of learners to study online. We did some experimentation that in that kind of project. We developed gamification on our platform that showed some improvement. And then we decided that we need to dive deeper into science and into course level, into learners. And we started a partnership a year ago with the University of Tartu. They have Education Technology Institute. So we are working with scientists specifically interested in educational technologies. And what we want to do is to build an open learner model based on self-regulated learning principles. So essentially to build a model within the system to support adult learners on BDegree platform, to make their experience more efficient, to maybe somehow solve for low completion rates that we observe in online education. So the whole project is, of course, it has more elements to that, but one idea is, and that's basically the current status of where we are with the whole idea, with the whole project, is that we have, working with Tartu University, identified around 20 indicators, pretty objective ones that can be maybe tracked on the system, that links to the 4 processes happening or when the learning happens. So cognition, metacognition, emotion, and motivation. And we want to put that into a model that would help to indicate or understand the learner's state and to do interventions, automatic interventions on the platform on how to improve, how to to support learners so that he or she doesn't drop, how to know when the motivation maybe is low and a person needs to talk with the real person, when the teaching assistant should step in, or maybe a person should review some materials. So there are a lot of things happening here, and at the moment we are kind of thinking of a simple probabilistic model of how to measure and how to indicate that, and we will work on interventions. But that's where we see that this system could have the AI implemented later and the new model being built, and trained. So our problems as of today is really the big problem we are trying to solve. And whenever I talk with some AI people, they are saying that it's very unclear mathematical problem as of now. Maybe it is too big. We of course face these everyday questions of how to treat different data, how to interpret, when should some computations happen, etc., etc. And for that, actually, we are starting to look for in-house full-time AI specialist, data scientist / researcher who would be interested in that kind of unclear problem and would be interested in model building. So if you have recommendations, here's my email. You can shoot them, or if there are listeners who are looking for new challenges, we are happy to chat. And I wouldn't be me, if I wouldn't mention a bit broader, maybe challenge or maybe a restriction risk that might happen. I'm also representing EdTech Lithuania, and through that network also European EdTech Alliance. So a network that in total maybe represents more than 1,500 EdTech companies throughout Europe. So there are a lot of discussions happening on AI regulations to be imposed by EU, and whether that will stop the AI development. And of course it could, depending on how it will be formulated, on when the effects will take place, etc., it might actually influence also our own development of AI systems within the degree. So
Yes.
yeah, that's the quick overview of what we are doing and where we are at right now.
Thank you very much, Ginville. A great overview, and it's interesting to hear what kind of challenges does a new startup, well, your company is not new, but when you're trying to implement AI, it's interesting to hear how it goes. And we heard a job offer, so if everyone is interested in tackling this challenge, they can connect Ginville and help with that. So, okay, let's hear from Vitalijus Klincevičius. As I know, Vitalio, if I'm correct, you are not yet using the AI, or is it working already? Can you tell us more about what are you doing and what's the solution that you're working on?
Yes, so hello everyone. And it's a very good question, but unfortunately, no, it's still in a developing stage. We're currently testing a general purpose model that will be capable to, well, he's not specialized in specific area that we are planning to do in the future, but we're experimenting with different approaches and try to design, well, most suitable for user model in a certain scientific area. As you probably know, there is different scientific areas, and in every one of them, there is a very specific type of questions that may be more important than others. And because of that, we must adapt according to this specific. So currently, we're focusing on multiple choice questions, open type of questions, true false statements. And we believe that this approach will make studying process easier and more efficient for our users, because what we're trying to do is give a tool to assess your knowledge about new material that you studied before. Because, well, when you study new material, you don't know where to focus exactly and how you can judge about your knowledge if you don't know that material. So when we start to investigate about possible implementations of this solution, we of course find similar solutions in the English-speaking market. And we try to, well, connect with those who work in this and have experience in such a model creation and training. So we've received some feedback that we try to implement in our training process. And well, one of the key areas that we are, well, mostly well, our goal is to introduce this to Lithuanian market, because as it was mentioned before, Lithuanian language is very specific and unique, and not well, not too much is happening that we try to change at a certain degree. So we are focusing on this and expect that in a, well, short time of period, maybe some open test environment will be accessible, where people can test it, well, and get and to give us feedback about our product and how we can improve this.
Yes, and Vitalijus, I have a question. So how did you come up with this idea? I mean, how did you think of it, and how big is it now? Is it you who are alone working on it, like on the side, or is it like already has a team? So how did you come up with this?
Yeah, well, at first it was a random idea, and it was one of the few. And we start to investigate, and the first thing that we found is a similar solution that was implemented in English-speaking market. We were very impressed how it was done, and of course we tried to make something similar to this. But it's more like a side project that I'm not the only one working on this. There's one more colleague who is working on this. We're more like AI enthusiasts who just decide to, well, let's give a try for this project as a, well, interesting experience for ourselves, because not only machines learning, we also learn new things in a process. So it's a long way to do, but we are continuing to work on this.
Great. So, and what are the main challenges so far for you? What are you working on at the moment?
Yeah, so at the moment, the main issue is obviously lack of sufficient amount of data and high quality data. To overcome this obstacle, we invest more time and work in a data collection process, which is, well, inevitable in every AI development. Probably there is maybe a few exceptions, but in most cases, it's must be a thing. And at the beginning, it also was very important computational resource. This situation in our case now improved, and we made some progress in this area. But of course, expectations always grow when you try to find new solutions. You always find, well, main obstacles that start that your existing resource is not enough to fulfill your expectations. So this is a continuous issue that we partially overcome, but there is always ways to improve this. So yeah, I would say.
And the final goal is to make a sustainable business out of it, to sell this idea, to pitch it somewhere, to make a company out of it, a service.
Yeah, well, it's more like a hobby that me and my colleague try to just more introduce AI for users, and to give opportunity for users to adopt to new technology that make them familiar user with this technology, how to use, because now we see a lot of AI buzzwords, and sometimes it's not obvious what it means. Users who not face this technology directly have sometimes unrealistic expectations what they will get from this. It's, for someone, it sounds as apocalyptic, and in reality it's well, it's far from this, let's say, at this moment. But we try to educate well, our audience, which is Lithuanian speaking market, to adopt this, embrace this technology, because, well, we are lagging behind and we are not unique. It's because, well, our language is not most popular, as we probably know, but this might change sometime after some time. So
Great. So best of luck, Vitalijus. I hope it all works out. And I think maybe it's a good time for us all to connect. Let's start the discussion earlier with, I think we have a unique chance now because it doesn't happen often that we have in the same room, or let's say in some virtual room, two professionals who are already working with AI, and two newbies, let me say that, in AI, who want to do something with that. So maybe Jurgita and Renata, maybe you can comment on what you hear. Any insights on what challenges they are going to face? Anything you would like to suggest them to do? Again, Vilija and Vitalijus, it's like let's do a live comment from experts for the new starters. Do you have anything to say to them, for those who are starting with AI?
Yeah, maybe I could just, I'm really happy to hear the main thing that sometimes the users that do not know deeply artificial intelligence have very high expectations for those technologies, and unrealistic, as it was named. So this is the main thing, to meet client expectations or to manage client or user expectations, just to state clearly what they can expect and how it is done and if it is possible to do. There was a question if we can have a better speech recognition tool, right? So the question is, it's not if we can have, we always have, but what is the goal of this? Why we should have it? What will change if we have better? So why we need it? Just we have to answer those questions first of all to ourselves, and then give that information to our users to understand what is really needed and what is the purpose of this. So this is my best compliments to you that you already understood that.
So Renata, you would say that the ideas that they have and the plans are realistic to happen? For example, Vitalius' business idea, do you see potential in that?
I can't comment. Actually, I'm really interested in what we are doing, and I try to understand the real usage or the end user of this. So maybe I wouldn't say that it's not impossible to do business, but I would really to know more about the real goal of this and how you see your market, because I'm not familiar with this market actually. So it would be not professional for me to comment this. But the idea seems quite attractive, and it seems reasonable, and I truly believe that we really need to boost AI in education, and there are a lot of things that can be done, of course, I would say that business somehow should step into educational sector and work together with academia to provide more solutions or more ideas, and work together to have the result of these ideas that could help our children to get better education, to be prepared for further world, the digital world, digital era, where new positions, new jobs will be required.
Yes. So Bit Degree already stepped into this, as you said. So their idea of using AI to understand the learning state, doesn't that sound too ambitious? I just enjoy asking people who are into AI about others' ideas of AI, because the ones who are working there are usually much more realistic and down to earth than the ones who has new ideas about AI. So, okay, shouldn't that just be manageable by someone, some human? Do you think that understanding learner state via a online platform, that's possible to do? It's achievable?
I think yes.
Great. Jurgita, what's your opinion? What do you think about it?
Well, I think that each problem has its solution. So first of all, what I would recommend is to collaborate with the research institutions, because they have the feeling, they have the knowledge how far you can go with the specific problems. And they will probably tell you if it is realistic and how much it is realistic. So my strong suggestion would be, because you, first of all, you have to know the problem from theoretic perspective, and only then to test it. And sometimes we go the opposite way. We find some model online, we try to apply to our problem, and it works somehow, but we still don't know if it is accurate enough, what we need to modify to move forward. So first of all, my strong recommendation, just to collaborate.
Yeah. So that's a private session of insights from experts. So it could be quite expensive. It wasn't in Lithuania AI. So Ginvilė and Vitalijus, hope you have you heard something useful already for your ideas. Okay, and since we are talking, I liked what Renata said, that we have to educate about AI. We have to boost AI education in Lithuania, and we are in an event called Lithuania AI Boost / education. So when we talk about education, actually, I don't really like this topic, education, as a moderator who does moderate discussions, because a lot of politicians and just people who are, you ask something and they often said, oh, that's a problem of education. And you have to teach it at school, and you can get around any question with that. So that's a way of running away from me. That's my point of view of education. So, and I know we can discuss a lot about the politics, and we won't go into that. It's not the idea today. But how much AI can solve in education? What do you think is the potential here in Lithuania? Let's say how much AI could help in education, and what would be the best examples of what's already happening? Could you maybe share what someone is doing, maybe somewhere outside Lithuania, what we could use, or do you know any other examples who really use AI in a good way to educate?
Yes, I would like to tell about some projects. Let's say the simple thing, everybody probably wants something similar to Grammarly for the Lithuanian language, right? That we have for English. So this is because it's really, we notice the teachers, lecturers, we notice that theses are not bright if they are written by students of informatics. So they are not linguists. So we desperately need not only to correct the grammatical errors, but we also need to correct the style. So this is the probable way. So in the other tools, as I already said, it's impossible to do education without Google search today, because students need to find information about the methods, about the novel techniques, and they search. Again, machine translation, summarization, because sometimes it's impossible because there's too much information going on there. So there are already many things that are used in education, but just the problem is that we do not have them perfect for the Lithuanian language. And this is the direction to go. And this is the reason why Lithuanian companies and Lithuanian research institutions and universities are working on all that we need every day. We are trying to catch up with the users' needs that are growing because they see what English speakers have.
Yes, thank you. But Jurgita, you're kind of saying that there is a lot of space in the market, that a lot of could be done, but I would guess business people would say, well, the market is too small. Lithuanian language is so small, it's not worth working on that. I am also waiting for a lot of solutions as someone who works with content, as a journalist, let's say. Some of the solutions are quite expensive for a freelancer journalist, even though the Tildes solutions I couldn't buy for myself, for my personal use. So
Which one?
Well, the transcription and other services. I know that someone is using them, and I cannot get a hand of it. I can't use it really well. I can use Google Translator for free, which is not working very well. So I don't know from the business perspective. Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I could add to Jurgita's. Actually, I heard of. I wouldn't say a name right now. I know Lithuanian, a person working in a Dutch company, and they are trying to offer the solution also for language processing to Lithuanian schools about exactly identifying whether the problem in a written text is grammar or a style, and they are applying already. And I assume if they are looking into Lithuanian market, that they have that solution. But you shouldn't forget also all the other subjects, math, science, it's more universal, even more universal, and we just need to apply. And there are many solutions, I think, in the market, not only in Lithuania, abroad as well, tackling those problems. What we need now is more open kind of approach towards how we are using those solutions in our education system, how we educate schools, how we educate teachers to use those solutions that are actually already available. And through EdTech Lithuania, we are actually working a lot. We are discussing a lot with the ministry, with the ecosystem of how to do that. So we first need to educate politicians, teachers, and change actually the system, how we are doing. And the solutions will follow actually. If they see that, you know, I don't know, Estonian niche solution being applied in Lithuania, why not? If we see those applied, we can also boost the ecosystem here and give that kind of inspiration to bring more solutions, and then for any problem out there in education system.
I also want to mention one important thing, that the major problem when thinking about some solutions for, let's say, some languages is the data. But right now the technology goes towards multilinguality. And from this perspective, Lithuanian language also benefits a lot. And there was the recent research was done by colleagues and me, Tilde, that we were able to use other language data to train the model and to use it for the Lithuanian language, for German, for French, for the other languages, not using any of the data in that specific language, but only training on English. So there are some multilingual and cross-lingual solutions. So, but again, if thinking about Google, they will probably not create anything specific for the Lithuanian language. Does it mean that we don't need here those solutions here? Of course not. And Lithuanian companies and Lithuanian research institutions, what they are doing, they are creating and also supporting those created tools, and also renewing them. What I wouldn't say about Google or other companies, because they simply do not care about it, right?
Actually, Jurgita told what I was, what I wanted to tell also. I just can add that why language technologies are so expensive, because it is expensive to develop it. We need huge input, huge databases that cost, and processing them, training engines, it costs a lot, enormous money, and without state support, we wouldn't be able to even to have some technologies for Lithuanian language. We participated in different projects that are funded by partially by government. So this allowed us to have something better than Google in Lithuania for Lithuanian language. And that what's a pity that when project ends, the technologies develop further for other languages. And if we do not have funding for further development, our technologies stayed in the same position for some time, and we lag behind the other language technologies. And it means that more attention to language technologies from governmental is always appreciated, always. We can't, if we want to be IT country, as we say aloud in Europe, right? That we are very well IT equipped, and we have deep knowledge in IT, and all of our users are know IT. But in reality, it is not always like this. To be in line with other countries, we need more funding, more money for that. And now there's new approaches that Jurgita mentioned, multilinguality and cross-language technologies. It might be that if it will be possible to use those language-independent methods or tools for Lithuanian language also, it might be that tools for Lithuanian language will be cheaper in the future. But this is a very early beginning right now to say that it will be in this way.
Yeah, so when we talk about Lithuania and AI today, we talk a lot about language, Lithuanian language. which was, I haven't expected that before the event, but just to be clear, I wanted to ask all of you. So is it fair to say that Lithuanian language, natural language processing and AI in Lithuanian language is, well, lagging behind, let's say, English language? Like how many years are we behind compared with compared with users who are speaking in English, the opportunities they have, and speakers who only use Lithuanian language? So wouldn't you say that we are behind, and how much time this is going to take to catch up? Renata, you don't agree?
No, I would like maybe Jurgita could comment. Are we lagging behind with Lithuanian language?
Maybe it depends on the topic. So in some topics we are definitely not, but in some are. But just have in mind, I remember when I started working in language technologies in 2011, it was the completely different picture. It seemed that we are behind like 20 or 30 years from the English language, but we are catching up, and due to because we get funding, national funding, government understands that Lithuanian language is important, and we have to do the research here, because the other progress do not have boundaries, but Lithuanian language, if we will not do it, nobody will do it for us. And also there are specific multilingual approaches as well. And of course, there are different people working in language technologies, different researchers, institutions, company as well. So I wouldn't say that we are much behind. Maybe just, well, everything is changing. I mean, deep neural networks appeared several years ago in the way that we started using them widely. Right now, transformer-based models. So if we want to renew the technology, we need to retrain it with new models there. So we are running all the time, but I wouldn't say that the gap is very huge. It depends on the topic. Maybe.
I agree with Jurgita, and I also don't think that we are behind. I would say that we are in line, and even with some technologies are even better than Google. For example, neural machine translation for Lithuanian language beat 3 years in a row, beat such companies as Microsoft, Amazon translation engines for Lithuanian, Latvian, and Estonian languages. So we are not behind.
Okay, but technologically, okay, but just to try to defend the user, for example.
Yes.
Okay.
Speaking about development and using, yes, we are far behind.
Okay.
Yeah, this is this is really like it.
Okay, so thanks, because I was just wondering about, for example, if you want an automatic transcription from audio to text in English, you can choose from a lot of free apps and so on. If you want to do that in Lithuanian, would help a lot of people with their work. Yes. It doesn't happen.
But this is understandable. There are big languages and there are small languages. Small languages like Lithuanian language, it's not imported in Europe at all. We are Estonian, Latvian, Czech, or Lithuanian language, they are small. Nobody's interested in small languages. Let's be honest to ourselves, do not lie to ourselves. And we are the only ones who care about our languages. Small nations care about their languages, and their there is a threat of extinction. So we have to be those pioneers that bring AI-driven language technologies into the market and educate users to use it. Each time I give a presentation, each time I encourage users to use. The more users will use those technologies, the cheaper they will be. The more educated society will grow.
Great. Okay. So. Yes, I think I had some skepticism, but as you said, we should do it ourselves. Maybe that's the way. We have one question from a chat, which is for Jurgita. Artem is asking, if a startup needs access to new AI development that is done in a university or just to the language corpus, how can this be done? if the question is clear, Jurgita.
Okay, yes, it's clear. Well, unfortunately, one more problem. Some resources are proprietary. Only some part of resources. I wouldn't say that it is very small, but it's of course too small to do larger research. But some resources are unfortunately such proprietary. So you can find some Lithuanian resources on Clarion, on metadata, but some of them you will not be able to get. So
Yeah,
it's one more problem, not sharing the resources.
Okay. But maybe it's worth trying to reach out and ask about it, right? To the university.
Of course. You can always ask personally, and people are willing to share, I think, but it is not placed somewhere. Not everything is placed on the internet.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Artem, for your question. And I think it's time to round up. And maybe we didn't talk much about the ecosystem of Lithuanian AI, but we did that in previous events. And my guess is that you cannot really say there is a big community of Lithuanian AI specialists who work in education. There is a community of AI specialists, maybe the ones who are more interested into, let's say, defense, cybersecurity, maybe yes, education. I don't think it's easy to say there is someone, you know, on the side. It's something different. So I would like to thank all of you once again. Really, Ginvile, Vitalijus, Renata, Jurgita, thank you for presenting today, for sharing your knowledge and what is happening here in Lithuania, sharing what you do, what are you planning to do. I think now we know much more about what is being done in Lithuania in education sector. We talked a lot about language and language processing. And I hope that was useful for everyone who's been listening out there. So if you did, let us know in the chat before we connect. Can you give us a shout out or say something? Was it interesting? Was it good? A compliment for the speakers. I think they would appreciate that. And I just want to say that it was a pleasure to be the moderator of these 5 events. It really passed so quickly. We talked about creative industries. We talked about health and biotech. We talked about defense, security, and space. Agrotech, which was completely unexpected topic for me, agrotech in Lithuania, and we actually learned so much. And today we had education, and I still have to get my head around all the startups that do things in Lithuania. I just can't stop thinking about, for example, neurotechnology. Lithuanian companies their solutions are reaching 2 billion people on Earth. And was like one of the crazy facts I got to know in these events. So thank you once again, everyone. Thank you, Mita and Lithuania Boost AI for organizing these virtual events. I hope we'll have more opportunities to talk about AI and the community in the future. And yeah, so that's it for this time. My name is Lukas Karaitis, and hope to see you in other events and other topics. And I see the chat is saying thank you, which goes for the presenters, Jonas, Artem, and everyone else. So thank you, everyone, very much. Have a pleasant evening and see you in other occasions. Thank you.
Thank you.